wolves teach courage, and that's in a way what we have to learn, isn't it, at this point in our lives? We have to have the courage to step out of our comfort zone with our husbands and be ourselves, our wives, and that is one of the hardest things when you've been a couple, is to have that.
Hi, I'm Chris G. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to paint a wolf, and I've chosen the wolf because it represents courage, and I think it takes courage to get through a journey of grief. So that's where we're going. So the wolf, beautiful picture there that we're going to use as the reference. I've made my pot of coffee, although I've got to put the coffee in it, so I've made a pot of water. But there you go. Shall we go and get going? I need to go and change into my paint jumper though first.
When Rob died, I turned to painting animals more because it was a soul connection. And I always assumed that that's what drew me to painting something, an animal that had a soul, and bringing that soul alive on paper, for me, was absolutely magical. For a while, I could get away from the grief and the pain of it and be lost into bringing that animal alive. So the wolves, they live in packs, but they also can be alone as well. They also support their family, they support the pack, and if the pack goes on a move, then they go in formation, and they start that formation with the weakest and the eldest in the front, because that way no one goes too fast for them, and the leader of the pack is always the last animal right at the back. That's how they work, and I think it's amazing that. The other thing is, they mourn if any member of the pack dies, they mourn just like we would. And I hadn't realised they can mourn for 6 weeks. Their tails drop, their whole demeanour drops. You can tell by the way they walk, their heads are low, that they are mourning the loss of that member of their pack. So a lot of them is actually quite white. I really wanted to get the eye in because I always think the eye is the entrance to the soul of any animal or human being. I'm just going to build little patches of colour. So I'm just going to get in where these colours go, opposed to, as I say. I'm still actually painting slightly in the directions of the way the hair goes, because I think that just also, if you've left a streak and it goes that way, that's always good. I wanted it facing the moon, and I didn't think this one was going to work, but then I thought, I could make it work. Sometimes we have to make things work, don't we? And I think, if you are going through grief, and depending on what stage you're at, you've made things work as well, because in the end we have no option. If you're at the beginning stages of grief, then really take it seriously. Just moving a step at a time is absolutely fine. The last one was all about really me going through it had been my wedding anniversary, and I think painting the penguins helped me go through that week. And I've just been away to do a show over the weekend. I went to a market, which actually was lovely because it's nice to get out and see people, and I had a very nice friend next to me, and we chatted, and I think it was really lovely. But whilst we were there, her friend's husband wasn't well at all, and sadly we knew he was going to pass at some point, and he did on the Sunday, and that was really hard on her as well. She felt she wasn't there for her friend, but she was there for her friend all the way through his illness, and she'll be there today. I know that. Just putting some dark underneath and then building that white into it gives it already a bit of texture and a bit of feeling of movement in the fur. Some of this where it is quite light, I'm just going in and getting that undercoat quite thinly under on there as a wash right now, so we've got the page covered. Don't be afraid to just go in with a bit of water and just spread it around, especially when it's going to be light as well on top. And we've still got the patches of the area where we know the those areas are different colours. Again, I've gone into too heavy again there. This is a bit where it's very white, but of course there is dark under there, so I'm just going to do a very watery grey so that we've got that underneath to start, and then the white will build easier on top. How's everything going? Where are you with your grief? Or are you watching just to watch me paint? I know some people do that. I'm just following along. That's great. I was speaking to a lady that I know at weekend who'd come to the show, and I was telling her what I was doing with this because I've not seen her for a while, and I said it's quite funny when I actually come to edit. I have to speed my voice up because I speak quite slowly, and she went, "That's because you're English." And she's Scottish, and she said, "Yeah, it's because you're English." And I just thought that was hilarious. She says the speed's kept for the Irish and the Scottish. It's just this first layer of getting an idea of where everything is going to go, and make sure that the whole composition I'm happy with. I think I'm a bit not very happy with the mountains right now, but they'll dry and that'll get sorted. I've just gone too soon around that and it bled into each other, but never mind. So it really is just going to be really just keep going now in strokes of adding the colour in. It's quite light, this area really, and I've gone with a very dark background so we can build the colour up. But like everything with acrylic, you know, or any paint, you know, you get so much in and then you must walk away. You must just let it dry before you do the next layer. Otherwise you're just going to blend colours together and then not have what you really wanted. I don't really want to go on the outer edge too much until I decide what's going here. So I can do all inwards but not leave it outwards till we get those mountains maybe a little bit more grey than they are right now. And as always, you know, don't keep all these colours exactly the same. I'm blending little bits of the three colours there. I'll probably put that one in as well, actually, as I go along now, and keeping even the strokes not even, because otherwise it just looks unnatural. So, because it was my wedding anniversary weekend, I did write a letter to Rob that evening. And I don't write them in that book as much anymore because I do talk to him at the end of the day. I talked to him to his picture. But I wrote him a letter in the evening before I was going to bed, and then decided to read back from the beginning of when I was writing letters. And oh my gosh, it was so repetitive in a way, because I just got used to pick the book up. I would never think about what I've written before. I just kept adding story, well, not story, just letters to him to say how things were and how I was feeling and all that. But you know, they virtually all read the same of how alone I felt. Most of the time I was writing to him in an evening, and it really was. It was like, you know, I live in the countryside where, to be honest, you can go days without seeing anyone, and how lonely it all was, and I was almost in despair. Thankfully, because anyone who's at the beginning of this journey, I know how that feels, that despair of people are around, but you actually, even in company, you feel alone. You feel your life changed so much, you just feel on your own. But then it's the night times when you come in to a house that's empty. That's just you. That's when it's hard. But I can assure you, and you won't believe me, that does get easier. I'm not going to say it's overnight. I'm not going to say it's a quick one. But I am now far more comfortable here on my own than ever. So it gets there. It's just a dreadful journey along the way that I appreciate. And other people who are watching and are further on with anything, they'll appreciate it too. It's just people don't talk about it. It's a big taboo subject, isn't it, somehow? And yet it's crazy because it is part of life, is loss. I think as I'm pushing these lines in now, I'm just going different areas. I'm going different thicknesses because this is like here, it's big clumps of moving fur, which is actually gorgeous, to be honest. It's starting to already give shape, and it's so how are we going to solve the mountain issue? make a good grey. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So I just want to really give it a bit of variation. This is the brush maybe for the clouds because it's the filbert brush, which is round edged. That kind of blends, because I put the blue into the mountain, it kind of makes it all more of the artwork together. Even though I'm not sure about those clouds, it's still bringing it together really, isn't it, by having some of the blue in the mountains. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about cliches. Cliches is, I suppose, it's a bit of a gripe I have, and I don't mean to have a gripe, but it is tough. It's tough when you're going through the shittiest part of your life and someone says something so cliche that it's actually crass. But I used to use a butcher's and it had a lovely little gift shop next to it. I went in the shop and the guy went, "Oh, you brought your shopping in with you today, have you?" I thought, oh, maybe that was not the thing to do. And I said, yes. I said, well, would normally take it back to the car, but sadly he died. And the guy, was very bothered and upset by it. And he went, "Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that," and whatever. But as I walked up the shop and I was looking at things, he suddenly went, "Well, the good thing now is you can do what you want when you want." I was mortified. Anyway, I kind of turned round and was heading back out the shop, and I turned round to him and I just went, "I don't think I have found a single good thing in Rob dying. I've never been back." And the other one is, look after yourself. And it's almost like, what does that even mean, look after yourself? You're on your own, and it's almost like verifying the fact that you've got to do it now because no one else is there. And it might be me just being a bit gripey about these sort of things, but then, so if you said that to someone, like, "Oh yeah, but they don't know what to say," and I can't cope with that one either, because it's not really that hard to talk, is it? "Hi Chris, how are you doing? How's things going?" It's not that hard to just make conversation, surely. So I'm just going to go around that eye a little bit sharper with the dark colour. I'm going to have some red in there, actually. Or rose. Rose is always a good one, isn't it? I think if you do go in with your blacks in a different colour all the time, it stops them being flat and gives them some lift. And for some reason, I'm just not peeling that off the palette very well today. What's your thoughts with that and cliche word that people say? What's the worst thing people have said to you? Because I'm sure you've had some really crass ones. Some of us get lovely people round, and we all do. There's some lovely people who support us and are there for us. I'm sure I've probably mentioned the other one that I always hate as well, is the be kind to yourself. Well, again, what does that even mean? Be kind to yourself. Well, you're not going to be horrid to yourself at the end of the day, because that would just be not normal anyway. But you're going through a lot, so be kind to yourself again doesn't kind of hit it, does it? a lot of animals with fur is a lot of patients just giving indications of the fur all the time, which I'm just want to get these bits in so we can see where the dark is again. So are you painting? Have you painted? Have you painted anything recently? It'd be really nice to see what you've been up to. Has it helped painting? More the point as well. Does it, for me, as I say, it always did help. More so as I got past probably a few months. So I'm still not liking the sky, so I'm going to very quickly change it. I don't like those clouds. It's distracting from the artwork. So I'm just going to phase it out. So I'm going to go round my plate. I thought that pen worked last time we did this. Let's have a look. I thought it was more white than that, but it will be fine. Just gently bring that moon back into a nice round shape. I have seen wolves at the Lakes Zoo, but they were white. And I know my husband might like the wolves there. Such a lovely pack of them there were. So I'm going to just put some dark in there anyway, so I might as well do it. But I wanted the edge white, because it's always that the moon is not completely white. There's shadows around it, isn't there? Craters or whatever's on the moon. So I'm going to get those in, because if I go a bit dark, I'm going to go over with a wash of white. We're still going to have some white, or some light bits down the mountains, because even though it's behind, there's still going to be, these are 3D, aren't they? So it will hopefully give it that 3D effect. So have you seen wolves? And do you have a connection with wolves? Do you find them a spiritual animal? What's your thoughts on that as well? Because for different reasons people have spiritual animals, not even just for what we're going through, but everyone has an animal that's sort of spiritual to them. Lots of reasons for wolves. Because of the strong family bond, the strong connection with the herd. They teach courage. That's what they say. They teach courage to walk both with others and alone. I mean, that's something that we need, isn't it, sometimes? There's Celtic meanings for them as well, which is quite powerful too. I'm going to find something written down about that. Let me see if I can find it and just read that. Here we go. So for a Celtic wolf, the Celtic wolf code, it says, is to protect your family, honour the elders. I'm not sure many people quite follow that quite the same as they used to, do they? Teach the young. Yeah, we all need to be always teaching the young, and they learn off the elders, not that they really want to know that, but the elders do know best, don't they? In all tribes and all races, in everything, the elders were learning it first. And what's the next one? Be loyal to your friend. Yeah. How does that one work with you? I have some lovely friends actually who are lovely, nice friends, and are there when you can call on them. And then there's others that abandoned you when you went through grief. So yeah, that's a funny one, isn't it, to actually think of when you're in the situation. And thankfully these things do get easier. You end up with new friends, I suppose. Voice your opinion. Oh dear. I'm pretty good at that. I wasn't for a while actually thinking about it. I wasn't actually for a while, but maybe now I am. And maybe some people don't actually get that or like that, but you do get to a point where, I don't know if it's with age or not. I don't like to think that I am voicing my opinion to be horrible to somebody or nasty to somebody, just to my opinion on something, but not to harm. I would hate to harm somebody with anything, even whether I like them or not. I wouldn't like to harm somebody. Not sure how these mountains are working. What do you think? Sometimes I can see it better when I look through the actual camera lens than I can when I'm looking flat on. So I kind of wanted to actually think about it lighter at the bottom. I haven't finished that that bit with Celtic. So the next Celtic bit with the wolf is stand your ground. I think sometimes we're all rubbish at that. We're very good at thinking something or not speaking up when we need to speak up. Is the fact that we don't always speak up or stand our ground and say no. And what else is there? Take charge when others show weakness. Yeah, that's a nice one, isn't it? If people are feeling down, are feeling off, and you can see that in them, so sometimes they just want a bit of your support as well. I hope if you're at the beginning of a group, there's someone there who will support you and see when you need it. There's something actually my husband was very good at reading in my mind as when I needed the support, more so than other times. Maybe we'll go white there because he's going to be black at the top. So let's do some lightness there. So when we come into his black fur, it will stand out. It just looks like layers of the mountain then, doesn't it? So what else have we got? Oh, I like the next ones. It says play when you can. I think it was during the second year of Rob dying, and my grandsons had come up and we were going to go to a farm park that we've been to several times before with Grandad. And I thought really seriously, I need to try and get to a point where I can be more playful with them and join in more, and because I'd been so down and they were so supportive, bless them. They were lovely with it. My granddaughters were as well. So I said to my daughter, we won't take picnics, we won't take any baggage that we've got to carry around, so that we could join in with the boys on all the rides that go on at the place. So they go up the this hill. It's such a basic play area, but sometimes, you know, when you go back to basics, how much fun is it? So they go up, you take up really a tyre donut, yeah, and then come down this heck of a slope. So my grandson, when I come to my turn, my grandson says, right, when you get in there, just sit on the side of it like this. And I hadn't really taken a lot of notice of what people were doing, if I'm honest. So I did. And my daughter was like, as I was getting further down, she's going, why is my mum coming down like that? You don't come down in them like that. Because what happens is you get down, you hit a bump, and you end up toppling out because you're supposed to sit in them, not on the edge of them. So I'm going down on this thing, and I can't obviously change what I'm doing because it's going too fast. And as I hit the slope at the bottom and the little bump that's supposed to slow you down, I topple out. And my daughter's really concerned. I couldn't stop laughing because actually, to be honest, it was quite hilarious. My grandson's killing himself laughing. And my daughter's going, why did you come down like that? I said, because Jack told me to. I said, I didn't know what I was supposed to do. But the best of it was, I rolled in really mud. All my back of my coat was all muddy. Everywhere I was just muddy. And honestly, I couldn't hide the fact that we'd done it. Well, we went into the restaurant later on, into the cafe little area. It was cafe area, really, for something to eat. And I'm like shedding, because this stuff is drying off me. I'm shedding mud. My daughter said, have you seen the floor where you sat as well? There was all like mud just coming off my coat. But everyone around, you can imagine, they were all sort of staring. The children are telling them what I did. So everyone thinks it's really funny. And I'm just like, you've just got to go with it, haven't you? So sometimes, yeah, you've just got to try and get to that point of making new memories with them, because Grandad was actually, I couldn't have competed with Grandad's memories really, because he was quite hilarious with them and getting to a point where in the whole grief process and building and learning, I think when you have grandchildren, you know, they're going through it too. I know they used to be up in the night sometimes saying to the mum that you know, they miss the granddad, and you know, they've been thinking of him and dreaming of him and things like that. So they miss him too. So I was trying to just soften it all. And then there's the other one as well, work when you must. Well, yeah, at the end of the day, in the end, we end up having to work, depending how your age you are when you lose someone. But there's a vast amount of people that end up still going back to work at some point, and that's a challenge in itself as well, isn't it? So there I was building my forest, and it's just a hint of a forest because there's only going to be the trees nearby that you'll see more detail. But I was getting to a point where actually it was blending rather than building. So the last one is always leave your mark. Well, that goes back to the story of the play area, isn't it? Always leave your mark. Well, I did everywhere I went after that. I left my mark with mud. So any funny stories with you? Did you? And it's always good, you know, to make a note of these things. These are memories that you're making now with people, with your family. So when you're painting anything like this, if you try and go in slightly different shades all the time in areas, it does make it more realistic. I think when you've mixed paint, sometimes if you don't wipe it off the thickness of the brush and you come to do this, your brush doesn't go to the point that you want, and then you're not actually picking up colour very well on the points, which is what I was doing now, and it was going on too thick. It's got quite a bit of a highlight. I just thought if I put the white in first and then blend into it, just get that highlighty area in. I'm cheating, I keep just pointing my brush with my fingers actually. That edge of his mouth is quite black on the edge, but I don't want it black because it would look very flat. So I've just done it in that purpley bluey colour because that will highlight it better. And that is actually a little highlight area that I might just start building now. I just put a little bit of the white along that edge. This edge it's got a strong line, but we don't want a line of black because it's just too harsh. So that reddy blue purpley colour will give it far more life. Highlight area there again, I'm just mixing a little bit of white in there as I go. There's a whole load of white going to go in there, but I'm just trying to be patient with it and get the darker bits in first, because then we can highlight it with the white in the end. So the hair's going different directions. It's quite a fluffy one, which is lovely. I still haven't worked my words out for this one, but I'm sure you're not, if you've watched other videos, you know that that's becoming a bit of a norm, and it will all happen at the end. How's he looking, do you think? Something's happening at the eye that I've got slightly wrong. I've got too much work there. That eyeball, yeah, the eye is supposed to be more into there, not into so much coloured area. I always say whenever you do a piece of artwork, it does tend to go through an ugly stage at one point where you think, oh, what's going on? Will I work it? And it does. It gets there in the end. I was kind of thinking a big tree here. The trees this year here, it's been a mast year, so they've got more fruit. The trees have been so full. They've looked amazing, but all the branches have hung so low and they're so full of leaves, sort of pine and acorns. I went around the gardens, and the acorn tree, well, we'd had a storm anyway, but the acorn tree has dropped its acorns, and it's just like a whole path of them. I have never seen acorns in that much abundance. It's just absolutely crazy. But yeah, it's known as a mast year when that happens, where you've got trees. Sometimes it's loads of fir cones on them, but I've never seen it with an oak tree. Right, we'll need to highlight a bit of that, but we need to let it dry. How does it look on there? I probably need to tilt it so that's better. I can see now. Yeah, that's a good start. I'm happy with that. I don't want to take it a little bit taller up the mountain, so it's higher than these ones a bit more maybe. I think we should probably take it up that far. It's like it's shining in the moonlight at the top there with those bits. Now I've done those, I quite like them, so I'm going to add some more. So I'm going to go in and try and brighten that, the moon up a little bit, because that needs a bit of a stronger line against that edge where I went over the blue. I've got a filbert brush which has got slight curve to it already, which helps, and I'm going in not too thick a paint because we're just going watery. I think this edge though, I'm going to swap my brush, because I think right there we don't need to be spoiling the edge of the mountain at this point. And I think I'm happy with those, the darker bits being knocked back. So I'm getting this quite weak on my other curved brush. So then I can just go down. I like this brush because it gets a nice edge. And you can get those nice bits of building up now. Around the eye. So there, I changed the angle of the brush to get those different lines. It's always just good to turn your canvas around. Even if I was on my easel with a bigger canvas, I still would turn it round. For starters, that is actually great. Wolves teach courage, and that's in a way what we have to learn, isn't it, at this point in our lives? We have to have the courage to step out of our comfort zone with our husbands and be ourselves, or our wives, and that is one of the hardest things when you've been a couple, is to have that courage. But it is the courage that we need, and it is the courage that in the end is going to move you forward with where you are, because we can't stick in that awful being down constantly. You can't rush it either, in the same respect. It happens slowly, day at a time. I'm not saying that anyone should feel guilty if they're still feeling lost and the pain is horrendous. I know that. So not to be rushing it, but generally in the end, step by step, we get a little bit more courage and a little bit more able to get out there. I've said it before that for me, I was living in an area of knowing so few people, that it took a lot to think, right, well, I need to I just need to get out and do things. And slowly I met people and did more, got involved with more things in the local community. Teaching art was always a good one as well, because I never really intended to teach art ever. It was just, I joined the book club. One of the ladies in there asked me if I would do lessons in art, and I did. And do you know, that was just a lovely way of meeting people and being me, finding who I was, not as a designer of clothes, but as suddenly an artist. What a change. You know, when I look at it, sometimes I think, I don't even know how it all happened, really. I sometimes think that things come to you at the right time. I don't know how people think like that. Obviously, the death of Rob, that was never ever going to be the right time, full stop. But for some reason, I was already painting. And he was encouraging me to paint. He, you know, that was the bit that's always a bit strange, is that I was already doing that. And I always think that art came to me at a time when I was going to absolutely need it to get me through the toughest time of my life. And here I am, quite crazily, 4 years on, with a YouTube channel. Be very careful I don't lose my way on this with all the angles, but I need to get that white in. So if you like my channel, please do subscribe. Or at least, if you are subscribed, like it as well, because it all does help. It helps my visibility on YouTube as well, which is all part and parcel of any of these social media things, isn't it, really? I'm just adding a few wild ones in here so that they're not quite all the same. Although they're going in the generally the same direction, they're not actually all the same, because they wouldn't be, would they? It's a funny one to say as well, actually, that the awful reality of going through all the stress, the trauma. There's a lot of trauma when you lose someone without much notice, or without any notice. We thought Rob was on the mend when we just got a message he wasn't. He was not got long, and I had to be there at the hospital. And the trauma that you go through with all of that created me to have a lot of hair loss. I lost weight and I lost hair loss as well. And I found some lovely shampoo that helped it grow. And then as we came to the anniversary, it happened again. And it's happened again this year, even 4 years on. So if you're going through that, apparently that's quite normal as well, in grief and stress. I think it's the stress that causes it. It happened to someone I know, some friend, and I think 5 years on, her hair started being better than it was. So when I heard her say that, I was like, thank goodness. I'm just going to put a bit of white on his nose there, because I want to just highlight there. It's not really the brush to do it with, and in his eye. I need to let that dry. It is the reason I really enjoy using the acrylics, because one, they dry quickly, unless you go too thick with them. And secondly, you can layer, and I've just layered that right into the blue. That was not what I was supposed to do. Let's see if I can get that off quickly. Don't want to be building a circle again, do I really? How's it looking? What do you think? Can you see it? Yeah. So now I've looked at those mountains, I just want to very carefully just go on, sharpen some of the bits of white, so they're definitely bits of rock. Maybe give it a little bit of a snow cap. It's quite a good brush for getting that sharp line on. And do the same on this side. I'm just going to go back into the wolf and just add some of the dark back in. This bit here, it needs black marks right up to there. And then I want to really try and brighten some of those whites up, like pure white. That first layer never is enough. I'm just going to keep building that white up, and then the added layers will help. So I'm going back to these whites and just making them stronger. It's just really strengthening. If I'm going over, I'm not going exactly over, but I'm trying to at least go over some areas of the whites. So we're getting them to be that bit stronger, because some of them are more a glaze than an actual painting. By just catching some of them, it just give different depth to it as well, though, rather than trying to go over exactly the same bit. So have you watched the video with a cup of tea, or are you planning on painting as well? I always ask you that, I know. But it is nice to know how people use the videos, because either way is perfectly fine. Some people might just get a little bit of happiness, a bit of reality check that, you know, whatever you're going through right now is perfectly fine. There's no right or wrong way if you're going through grief. There's no guidelines, really. We all do it slightly differently. And when people try and tell you, oh yes, you go through all this and this and this in that order, it's a load of rubbish. You'll go through it however you go through it. And sadly, we have to deal with it our way too. And that's the hard bit, because it's lonely. It's a really lonely journey. And even you can be in a flipping crowd, you can be with lots of people, you can be with family, and still feel this massive part of somebody is missing. That part of you is missing. They joined at the hip, don't they? I think it's quite funny, that, really. I think they joined at the soul. And they're still here, they're still with us, just in a different way. And just get those little dots around his face. So with the wolf is resilient and adaptable, and it's supposed to inspire us to face challenges with courage, trust, and trust your inner strength. And I think that's what it is, isn't it? It's one, we do in the end build the courage, and you know, our courage is stronger than our fear in the end. But at the beginning, it's day by day. You take it day by day, because it's really is hard at that point. But in the end, you do get more courage. You get the courage to even just to go shopping on your own, if you used to go as a couple like we did, or just to go out for maybe a cup of coffee on your own. It's all about building the courage to go somewhere and do those things on your own. Because of the courage, I've decided the wording for this one is, your courage is louder than your fear. And to start with, you won't believe that. To start with, I wouldn't believe that either. And that took a while. When I say a while, I don't mean months, I mean probably the first year. I didn't feel very courageous in anything I did. I just felt as though I existed and got through it. Even just going back to somewhere that you went together, a place you enjoyed being at, you don't feel as though you can do it. But slowly you try these things out, you just keep doing it step by step. And that's all it is, a step at a time, yeah? In the end, my story matters as much as our story mattered. That I have memories of Rob, but that doesn't mean to say my grandchildren can't have memories of me in these years that I'm having on my own. That their memories can, you know, I have to make memories with them. You're allowed to feel how you want to feel. It's your journey and it's your story. So my second wording is, your story matters. Yeah? Just that, your story matters. Rob's story to me will always, always matter. He was the storyteller, by the way. He was a very cheeky storyteller. He was a nice, generous man as well. When we did the shows, he used to buy people. He used to go off to the cake shop if we were near a town, or even at a show sometimes, somewhere I'd be selling donuts or cakes or whatever. He'd buy them for people around the marquee, for friends around the marquee, and he'd come back with donuts, and I actually didn't like donuts. And everyone else was eating donuts, and I didn't like them. Too dark, that did. I'll just grab a bit of that beigey colour and blend it on the paper. It's got a blue reflection in his eye. I suppose that's a nice blue sky with the with the moon there. And while that just dries, I want to put a little bit more yellow in that moon area. That looks a bit brave, doesn't it? I'm going to act quickly with that because I've got no white ready. Oops. I think actually the lemon probably was a little bit better than the other one. I used the cadmium before. So I want to just try, just get around that nose where the light bits are, and then I'm going to wash back over it. Okay, I'm going to splash this top bit here because I think it'd be nice to have a bit of a splash of snow, but I don't really want it down the tree. Maybe I don't want it totally down all the trees, just maybe the top edges. I never decided if I'm flicking it off my finger or off the paintbrush in the end, but I just wanted it to be a bit starry skied, maybe a bit snow skied. There we go. So while some of that dries, I'm just going to try and just get a slightly different green to get a little bit more depth in this front tree. And of course this side I can do perfectly well, and I bet you the other side I'll still struggle with. Obviously this one, with it being so much further forward, I want it to stand away from those at the back. How's it looking? What do you think? We're not too far from the end of this one. I think I am going to pick out the odd bits of black with a pen on the wolf because I need to find a sharper line. I just want to make around that eye a little bit clear. Actually, I wanted to have put some yellow on there. I might do that in a minute. It's just if you go light on it rather than pressing down, you're going to ride over that canvas rather than catching it. I don't mind using a black pen, but I'm not a fan of using the white Poscas on because I think there's something about the glaze on them. They seem to always reflect too much. Camera picks them up too much as well sometimes. So the black ones I find perfectly fine. And this is preference, isn't it? You know, other people might say it differently. And of course that's fine as well. There's no wrong. If you've enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe. Help me build the channel for yourself and for other people as well to enjoy. When you do a canvas, especially in acrylics, you sometimes find that different acrylics are different, capture the light differently. I missed all the black out underneath the chin actually. There's a whole load of black under here that's got missed. And I will fill that in. I'll start with a pen, but I might go in with a bit of paint as well. Sorry, going back to that, the varnishing. If you get it reflecting in different ways and it's dull in one bit and bright in another because of it's actually the different paints, and sometimes one's slightly matter than another one, and one might be shiny, especially if you use two different brands, which you know we all do. If you just spray it with some varnish, some matte varnish, or whichever varnish you want really, as long as it's for canvas or artwork, it will take that away and it'll smooth it out, which is great for when you use a pen in as well. Under the chin is a little bit shadowy, and it would be nice to try and just get that little bit of shadow under there. That brings it out a little bit, doesn't it? It doesn't matter what the tree looks like, I can't do anything with it because it's wet. And the wolf, I actually like the wolf. I do think there's little areas maybe I would add a little bit more to it, but and you do get to a point of thinking, will that extra mark make a difference? I think generally I'm very happy with it though, and I hope you've enjoyed watching me do this. I do have tutorials. The link will be at the bottom of the in the description, so you can have a look at them, and that is literally step by step painting. I think now there's a hiding cow, a kingfisher, and a giraffe. There's also a freebie one as well, which is good. You can go on and you can do it. It's a freebie, how to paint an eye, and eyes are important. It is the way into the soul. So, you know, you can go on and you can even pick the freebie up off my website as well.
The wolf. And the words, your courage is louder than your fear. And that's where we have to get to. It takes time, and it is courage. It's the courage to go out there alone and be you and find out even who you is. Because I know I did. I had trouble getting to be Chris, not Chris and Rob. Chris and Rob was who we always were, and now it's just me. So yeah, it's a lot of courage, and it's a lot of courage to get out there and be you again, and even just go for a coffee on your own or whatever. So yeah, and the other line is your story matters, because making these memories now with your family, with your grandchildren or whoever, that's your story. And your story with Rob, or my story with Rob, should I say, will never ever be any different. And sadly, it's true that it won't even add to it. And I find that so hard, so hard. But I have got to that point where I do know that I have to start making my own story, my own memories, so that when I go, which we all will, I've left memories behind, and I wasn't the miserable person that I know I was at the beginning. And it wasn't miserable, actually. It was the lost person who's slowly finding herself. Thank you for joining me, and please leave any nice comments or comments you'd like answers to. That's great. I don't mind answering whatever one wants to ask me. And please do like and subscribe to my channel, because you know that helps me grow it.